Good afternoon. Welcome. Today's activities will be ensured in terms of information that will be widespread thanks to the report and the web TV broadcast by the Chamber of Deputies, and the online participation is allowed to all colleagues that wish to do so based on the rules and regulations. The agenda today, within the framework of the survey on the commitment of Italy under the umbrella of the international community for the promotion and protection of human rights and against discrimination. So the agenda today has the hearing of the representatives of Kairos Palestina. On behalf of the members of our committee, I'd like to thank and give my welcome to all the members of this delegation, in particular Mr. Isaac, pastor and theologian, Palestine Christian theologian and head of Bethlehem Bible College. My welcome to Rifat Kassis, coordinator of Coalition Global Kairos for Justice, as well as founder of the Palestinian section of Defense for Children International. I'd like to thank them for their participation. And last but not least, Sahar Francis, head of the legal unit of the NGO Adamir, that provides legal aid to Palestinian political prisoners. Welcome, Sahar. Welcome to all of you. And, of course, the delegation is accompanied by Don Ferdinando Capovilla, whom we know very well. I'd like to give him our warmest welcome. And Dr. Carmela Babini as well. And our bishop, His Excellency Giovanni Ricciuti, my warmest welcome to the whole delegation. I'd like to remind you of the fact that Kairos Palestine is a Palestinian Christian movement supporting and advocating the end of Israeli occupation and the achievement of a just and fair solution to the conflict. The aim is to free both peoples from extreme and extremist positions whilst promoting demands aiming at a reconciliation. Within this framework, Kairos Palestine has welcomed the recent agreement on the ceasefire, the prisoner swap, and the liberation of Palestinian prisoners, whilst inviting at the same time the international community to do its utmost to help reconstructing Gaza with no conditions and without abandoning its people, as it tragically happened during the previous wars all along the Gaza Strip. Gaza devastation is immense. About 70% of civilian buildings have been completely destroyed or heavily damaged. 250,000 houses out of this number have been destroyed. Over 30 hospitals have been completely destroyed and damaged, with serious repercussions on access to the health service. The United Nations deem that over 50 million tons of rubble and debris are now covering Gaza, and it seems that 14 years will be necessary to reconstruct the country, which means until 2040, Gaza will not be back to what it was before. So Kairos, within this framework, hopes for a deployment of an international mission to ascertain facts, to verify whether during the conflict any war crimes or crimes against mankind have been committed, and it rejects the plan by President Trump to transform Gaza in a Riviera of the Middle East, because they consider this as a serious violation of human dignity and international law. Now, all this said, I'd like to give the floor now to Reverend Isaac for his speech. Reverend, you have the floor.
Good afternoon, and thank you for this opportunity. We're honored and pleased. Thank you for accepting this call for a meeting. My name is Munder, and I am a pastor and a theologian from Bethlehem, the place where Jesus was born. And with all the focus on Gaza, and rightly so because of the well-documented abuses of the international law and the well-documented genocide that happened, as attested by the ICJ, the report from the Special Rapporteur on the Palestinian territories and East Jerusalem, Francesca Albanese, and many other organizations. The devastation is so strong. But even also in the West Bank right now, things are becoming more and more unbearable. Bethlehem alone is surrounded by more than close to 90 checkpoints, gates, roadblocks. Bethlehem, like all other Palestinian areas, is becoming a big isolated prison. Right now we're heading towards a time in which Bethlehem will become another Gaza, and so will Nablus, so will Hebron. Israel has fragmented the West Bank with close to 900 checkpoints, gates, blockades, roads are completely blocked, and a simple trip from one Palestinian place to the other sometimes takes us now 3 to 4, 6 hours, in some cases 17 hours on a checkpoint. All of these abuses are documented, making life unbearable for Palestinians. On top of that, in Bethlehem, we are surrounded by close to 20 Israeli settlements, a separation wall, and just this week, Israeli government approved 1,000 new units in the settlement outside of Bethlehem. And just to emphasize, you know, in these areas around Bethlehem, we Palestinians need a permit from the Israeli military to do anything, and we're never granted that permit. But the settlers are always able to do so. This is just one example of the discrimination. The fact that Israeli Jews can even immigrate to our land, settle in our land, displace Palestinians, and we're not able to live normally in our homeland as Palestinians. This is why numerous human rights organizations, numerous legal entities are casually referring to the situation as apartheid. It's well attested today, whether it's Amnesty International or Human Rights Watch, or even the Israeli legal organizations and human rights organizations like B'Tselem. They're all referring to the situation as apartheid. All of this is impacting the Christian community where I come from. Many families find it hard to survive and choose to leave Bethlehem and the Palestinian territories because we don't see any future for our children. And I must say that we in Palestine are very, very disappointed from the international community. And I truly believe we live in unprecedented times, and we live in a crisis in our human history. Because clearly Israel has proven over and over that it is above the law. Israel is above the international law. And of course, it's supported by its allies, the superpowers. They always act with immunity. This has been the case over the years by the building of settlements, which are illegal by the international law, the biggest obstacle to a two-state solution and to lasting peace. We've seen the abuses documented in what happened in Gaza, the starvation, the denial of medical aid, the brutal killing of civilians. Just think and pause for a moment. 17,000 children have been killed in this war. And right now, we Palestinians are asking, does the international law apply on Israel? And does the human rights, do they apply on us Palestinians, or are we less human? Why is it that when our rights are violated, no one speaks out? So we're very disappointed, and when someone like, when President Trump suggests that they will own, USA will own the Gaza Strip, it's a critical moment, because he's openly calling for the ethnic cleansing of 2 million Palestinians. It's a crime. How will the international community respond? We're very fearful, because we've seen the international community do nothing for the building of settlements, the building of the separation wall, which took so much of our land, illegal by the ruling of the International Court of Justice. We're fearful because Israel broke in so many laws, war crimes in this war. these are not my opinion, it's the opinion of the ICJ, and then we all know about the warrants, arrest warrants by the ICC. And I must say that I am very disappointed that as we speak here today, the Israeli president is welcomed in Italy, in the city which oversees the writing of the regulations and the constitution of the ICC. So this is a critical moment, because if this happens, we're clearly sending a message not just to Palestinians, but it's a message to the world that the international law no longer matters. And we're going to go back to the rule of the mighty, of the powerful. Is this where we're heading to? And Palestinians right now are paying a heavy, heavy price. I will let my colleagues talk more and more about the difficulties we face on a daily basis. I mean, the hours of wait at the checkpoints, the confiscation of land, the denial of family reunifications. Families are separated. And the situation of political prisoners, the torture. All of these abuses are documented, well documented, and we ask, does the international law matter? And do human rights matter for us? This is why we're here, and we're urging you, as you have a saying, to apply the rule of law when it comes to the international law, to the ICC rulings and the ICJ. Thank you.
Molte grazie, Reverendo Isaac, per la...
Thank you, Reverend, for your very strong report. The word that you have repeated over and over again is that you feel we are not doing anything, that the international community are not doing anything. You are disappointed. Disappointment is the word that you have repeated. Now, let me give the floor to another representative of Kairos Justice and representative of the Defense for Children International, Mr. Cassis. You have the floor.
Thank you. Actually, Reverend Mitri had expressed most of what we are experiencing back home in Palestine. And we truly believe that the struggle of the Palestinian people today is a real test of the world commitment to justice and human dignity. Things are beyond the capacity of the Palestinians to struggle and to resist. This issue should... okay. The issue of Palestine is becoming more of a regional and international issue. What President Trump proposed to make Gaza as a Rivera in the Middle East and to ethnic cleanse the Palestinian Gazans from that area, this could be also an issue for many countries who would try to get rid of their minorities by sending them to other places. So that's why this should be an issue for all justice-loving people. And as I said, our struggle is becoming a test to the world commitment for justice. And Kairos Palestine urges you to act with courage and moral clarity. Do not allow international law to be selectively applied. Stand with the oppressed, uphold justice, and be on the right side of history. And as Martin Luther King said, injustice anywhere is a threat to justice everywhere. And let this be the moment where Italy stands for Palestine, for justice, and for peace. Actually, we come here as Kairos Palestine, commending Italy as a nation that values democracy and human rights and international law. And Rome status started here, and the ICC started here. So we call upon you to really uphold international law and human rights. Demand an end to the illegal occupation and settlement expansion. in line with the UN resolutions and human rights conventions. We are not asking more than what the UN resolutions and the international law gives us. We truly hope Italy would take a clear stance against apartheid and the settler colonialism which suffer living under it. We also urge you to push your government to respect the provisional rulings of the ICC and the ICG. The International Criminal Court is investigating Israeli war crimes, and the International Court of Justice has ruled on provisional measures to prevent genocide in Gaza. We urge you to ensure that Italy respects and enforces these rulings. And no state, as Mulder said, no state should be above international law. Also, support sanctions and legal action against those responsible for war crimes and human rights violations. Impunity only prolongs injustice and suffering, and the suffering of all people in that area. We also urge you to cease arms exports and trade with illegal settlements that sustain Israeli oppression. Europe must not be complicit in war crimes. And finally, we urge Italy, because you can take a decisive step toward justice by recognizing the state of Palestine, supporting the Palestinian self-determination, and working towards an end to apartheid and occupation. And thank you.
Sì, grazie. Grazie molto per...
Yes, well, thank you. Thank you very much for your requests that are very clear. I will now give the floor to Zaha Francis, whose role within Adamir is very important because they give support to Palestinian political prisoners. And I would like our committee members to know that during the last visit in Ramallah, we met Adamir, and Sahar told us about the situation of Palestinian political prisoners, and we were informed about the reality of facts of the life of these prisoners in Israeli prisons.
A lot, and it's my honor to meet again and to brief you today. And of course, I echo all the messages came from my colleagues. And actually, the issue of the prisoners is a very perfect example about how the Israeli state managed all these decades to get away with the grave violations of basic rights for prisoners and for the Palestinians in general under the international humanitarian law and international human rights law. And it can reflect perfectly why it's very essential and urgent and very important that third state parties like Italy, all the states that joined the international human rights treaties, the Fourth Geneva Convention, and all the other important treaties, why they should respect the ICJ ruling of July 2024 around the illegality of the occupation. Although this is not a binding legal decision by the court because Israel refused to engage with this case, but still it put in framework, in a legal framework, the whole question of the occupation after all these decades, and the court confirmed that all the practices, the settlements, the house demolitions, the land confiscation, the annexation of East Jerusalem, the planned annexation for the remaining of the West Bank, it's all illegal, and they decided that it should end in 1 year. And this reflects on the prisoners as well, because as you may know, that Israel were imprisoning Palestinians for decades and subjecting them for the military court procedures, that it's not a fair trial standards, it's not respecting fair trial standards. So in these 15 months, more than 14,000 people were arrested just from the West Bank and East Jerusalem. Over 7,000 people from the Gaza Strip were arrested in these months. We don't know the accurate number. Currently, even after the exchange that was happening in the last 6-7 weeks, Israel is still keeping more than 10,000 Palestinians from the West Bank in detention, including 300 children, 18 women, and out of the 10,000, there's 3,400 administrative detainees arrested without any trial, without charges, based on secret information. Over 2,500 detainees from the Gaza Strip are still held in detention under the unlawful competent law, which also is denying fair trial procedures. It's based on secret information. All these thousands of prisoners were subjected for torture, physical attacks, health neglect policies, starvation, abuses inside the prison, including sexual harassment. Just today, the Israeli military court submitted a charge sheet against 5 soldiers who were involved in physically attacking and sexually harassing a one detainee last June in Sdeiman, and this is the only case where they investigated properly the sexual harassment situation against the prisoners. More than 60 prisoners died in the last year inside custody. This reflects the harsh conditions of the prisoners. And I would end by highlighting, unfortunately, history told us that the Israeli state never respects the agreements. In the Oslo Accord agreement, Israel released thousands of prisoners. Most of them, they were rearrested. Currently, there's people that they were arrested while they were released in previous exchange deal in 2011. This year, some of the children that they were arrested in November in the first exchange deal, they were rearrested and were released again last week or 2 weeks ago. So these people that they would be released, if the occupation is not ending, this is not a guarantee that they will not be rearrested, tortured again and again and again. And this is why it's the correct time that the international society declares that the occupation should end and justice should be based on respect for international law and human rights. Thank you.
Sì, grazie molte.
Yes, thank you. Thank you, Ms. Francis. Now I would like to give the floor to whoever would like to take the floor. Is there anyone else that would like to say something? I know there have been some changes in the delegation, so please let me know if anyone else would like to say something. Okay, it doesn't seem like it. So following your presentation, especially following the very dramatic things that you shared with us, I would now ask my colleagues if they would like to take the floor to say something or ask any questions. I see the deputy would like to say something. Thank you, thank you. There are 2 things I would like to mention very quickly. First of all, Bethlehem. A year and a few months ago, after October 7th, I traveled to the West Bank around December 20th. We visited Bethlehem on that occasion. And we noticed it was completely deserted. It was almost scary. It seemed impossible to get in there. Today, Father Isaac, you are talking about 90 checkpoints around that area. So I would like to better understand if something has changed in that situation, at least compared to a year and a few months ago when I was last there. I'm wondering if the situation has changed. Or maybe if the entire area that used to host millions of pilgrims, an area that was quite developed also when it comes to trade, is still the same. Moreover, I'm also wondering, what can we say, what can we do starting from Bethlehem? What is the call we can send out to people? Bethlehem is the heart of Christianity. The world knows Gaza. They know the terrible tragedy Gaza has undergone. But people don't really know the West Bank and the terrible tragedy that has occurred there as well. People tend to imagine Bethlehem as a beautiful place, while Bethlehem is within the conflict, and it is one of the places that needs to be spoken about more and more, because this is what can really impact the public opinion. It has a big impact on a large majority of people, especially from the Christian world. The second thing I want to say has to do with something that was mentioned by President Boldrini in her introduction, whom I thank President Boldrini for organizing this event. And she mentioned the possibility of having some observators. The West Bank, Gaza, we know that this is something that dates back to many years ago. It is not a new situation. And I would like to understand what you think of the fact that we know very well that at the international level, from a political point of view, things seem to be worsening. Also because of what Trump has been saying, because of a very strong opposition. We know that there is a lot of talk about what to do within the borders, and I do think that this is exactly what the international community should focus on. The international community should make sure that the UN resolutions are actually respected. Now, last thing, with regard to what Adamir was saying, to what was being said from the NGO, and Amir, I thank the NGO for their work. We read that there would be this decision by the National Palestinian Authority to stop the possibility for the family members of the political prisoners to receive impunity. This is an old request from the United States. It's true that the National Palestinian Authority finds itself in a dramatic situation right now. We know that for many years, the people who are part of the Palestinian Authority have been receiving about 1/3 of the income they should be receiving. So I'm wondering if you can tell us more about the concrete impacts of this decision. Which would be the concrete impacts? Moreover, I also wonder if you believe that this could further deteriorate stabilization from the Palestinian side. Thank you. Thank you, Honorable. Are there any other colleagues who would like to take the floor before we move on? Deputy Ascani, thank you.
Grazie, Presidente.
Thank you, President. Thank you for your very important contribution. I have a question for you also as legal experts, people who have a chance to see what is happening in the field. How do you see this truce? Also in the light of the relationship with Arab countries, their contribution to be able to actually reach a possible solution. And I'm also wondering if, in your opinion, it is possible to move forward with the people-to-state solution. Again, you are observers. You get a chance to see what is happening in the field. So also with regards to what you mentioned more than once, and that is that the international law and the decisions of the International Court of Justice are completely ignored and disregarded. As of right now, the United States, Israel would be pretty much willing to give a death certificate to the International Criminal Court. Thank you. Thank you, Honorable Ascari. Are there other questions from my colleagues? I want to say something. 1 month ago, we went to the West Bank with the Committee for Human Rights. On that occasion, we met some representatives of Adamir. We met the institutions, the civil society, and we also met all the victims of abuse. We met victims who suffer the violence of the Israeli people day after day, people who want to kick people out of their settlements in the various villages, people who find the support of the Israeli army. This is a terrible situation, and we must condemn it. The international community must condemn the situation. There seem to be two different standards. International law cannot be applied on a case-by-case basis. It must always be applied. And if we do not always apply it, then we will all suffer. Because international law came to life for us to have some rules, for us to be able to understand and especially to live in a reality in which certain things cannot be done. They're not acceptable. So if we do not comply with international law, if Israel thinks that they are beyond the international law, then others will follow. And this vicious circle will make us fall into a terrible situation. So I really want to express my solidarity to the Palestinians, to all those who find themselves in this situation. The Palestinians live in anguish in Gaza. They see no prospect for their life. It is full of rubble. But also we can say the same about those living in the West Bank. There are never-ending attacks by the settlers, by the army. And it seems that there is a goal, and that is of getting rid of all the Palestinians. We cannot accept this. We will most definitely continue dealing with this situation. And we will also do everything we can to make sure that we can reach out to the government so that we can truly safeguard the interests of the Palestinian people. There's so much violence, and this does not ensure a safe future for anyone, not for the Israeli, not for the Palestinians, for no one there. No one there is safe as this situation carries on. So the mayor of Bethlehem 1 month ago told me that Italy, for the first time, seems to be far away from us when we're living a war. Italy has always been right next to us, so where is Italy right now? Unfortunately, Italy right now is not standing next to the victims. I am saying this because this has always been part of our political tradition. And this is why we will do what we can to make sure that the government reconsiders where it stands. To abstain from recognizing the state of Palestine is not a wise solution. If the state of Palestine does not exist, and up until that moment, then there will be no safety for the Israeli people nor for the Palestinians. This violence will cause more and more violence. The children of Gaza have seen their parents killed. They have seen destruction. They have not been going to school. And we don't know when and if they will be able to go back to school. So let's ask ourselves, how are they going to grow up? They will be full of hatred. So we need to put an end to all of this. We find ourselves at a dead end. So really, I want to thank you for your very strong, honest testimonies. Thank you for representing Christian Palestinians who are suffering together with the Palestinians who may come from different religious backgrounds. Maybe they're Muslim. And they also suffer with those Israeli people who believe in peace and nowadays have become a minority. I think we are here to give voice to all those who want peace. We cannot live in a never-ending conflict. This is not sustainable. We cannot keep saying that we manage the conflict. And then we look at October 7th and everything that comes after that. So we are here. We are right next to you. We will try to move forward with the promotion of peace. If there's anything we can do, we are here to do it. Today, here with us, there are also some colleagues who are part of different groups. I invite the members of the majority to also be part of this group that wants peace between Israel and Palestine. We would like to be testimonies of all of this. We went to Rafah a year ago at the border between Egypt and Gaza. On that occasion, we saw many trucks stuck. They were full of aid. The people were dying. They were starving, but the Israeli authorities were not allowing the aid to get in. Now we would like to go visit the West Bank. And we would also like to send strong messages. The 900 checkpoints means that you cannot go to work. It means you can't go to school. It means you can't go see a doctor. It means that you are forced to give birth at the checkpoint. This is not life. We need to pass on these messages. We need to do so with strength. So I'm wondering, given the situation, given the difficulties, do you think it would be possible for the group of the Chamber of Deputies to visit the places where there are now different tensions, different conflicts? Do you think it would be possible for this group that promotes peace for Israel and Palestine to speak in Hebron, different places? Do you think that we can decide to meet in Jenin, in Nablus, or is it not possible for us to bring our testimony? This is my question to you. Thank you.
Thank you. A lot was said, so please allow me to address some of the things, and then I will give the floor to my colleagues. First, about Bethlehem. It is much worse than when you visited in December 2023. More checkpoints and more incursions. Just last week, the Israeli military armies, the cars of Israel, were just showcasing in the Nativity Square outside of, in the middle of Bethlehem. They destroyed some cars. They shot at people just outside of our church. This is becoming daily. And the checkpoints, as I said, close to 90 with the blocks and the gates, including one that is outside of the school of my children. My children's school is literally 3 to 4 minutes away from my house. Now it takes 20, 30, sometimes 40 minutes to get there. And to avoid it, sometimes we go on the dirt road. You know, if they arrest me at the dirt road, they will abuse me in front of my children. It's a risk, but we have to go to school. And I can only imagine the emotional, psychological impact it has on my kids every time I walk by the checkpoint and they are pointing at us. So it's clearly, you know, we have this sense of fear. Why are they isolating us? What do they want to do? What's the plan? You know, making every entry out in Bethlehem like this. The numbers we have is that unemployment is 35%. Close to 85,000 families are struggling to survive. That's why churches are now doing their best to support families. And at the same time, let's remember that for the first time in history, Bethlehem and Jerusalem are separated. I mean, it's really hard to imagine this. When I was a kid, we used to take a bus from outside of my house. 15 minutes, we are at Damascus Gate. Now it's, you know, very, very few people can get to Jerusalem. The privileged can get. And you apply to a military, a permit from the Israeli military. So what can be done? Our message has always been, there is no Christian solution. You can't just help the Christians. We're part of the Palestinian people. There needs to be a holistic solution. There needs to be a political solution for stability. You know, we just want, honestly, 20 years of stability without violence, without another wave of violence and so on. So there needs to be a holistic solution. And what my colleague suggested in terms of international pressure, to me, that's the roadmap. That's what we need to implement, the very specific requirements that, you know, we came with. I just want to, another thing, something was said about the two-state solution. Right now, you know, Israel is openly saying there will never be a Palestinian state. So it's a test to the international community. How will you respond? The Israeli politicians don't care. They say it openly, publicly. There will never be a Palestinian state. And they're doing everything they can to make it an impossibility by the building of settlements and the annexation plan. The annexation plan is, you know, is happening. And I believe that the most important thing to emphasize now, with everything that is happening in our land, is the right of Palestinians for self-determination. This is, to me, the most important element to keep pushing for. Because Israel is doing its best to take away that from us. Look at even they trying to talk with Arab countries as if we don't exist. I can't imagine how will you achieve peace. You know, they celebrated peace with the United Arab Emirates and Bahrain. What did it lead to? You can't continue to bypass Palestinians. So our right for self-determination to me is crucial. We would love more visits. Of course, we need these solidarity visits, fact-finding visits. I think the world and Israel needs to hear that the international community is not okay with what's happening. So we need these public declarations, but I hope they also come with demands, not just to come and say we are with you, but you are with us when you demand weapon embargo from your government. You are with us when you demand boycotting settlements from your government. So when you come, make these declarations clear so that it's tangible, and you make it public to the world, to all those who conspire to, that know we stand for justice. So we welcome these visits, but we also say, please let it come with tangible demands. And finally, you know, one of the comments I think from you was that we are disappointed that the international community is doing nothing. And I want to add something. It's much worse than doing nothing, because by doing nothing, the international community is enabling and normalizing a genocide. So it's not just passivity. No. This doing nothing, this silence is enabling and normalizing a genocide, and my fear is that it will lead to ethnic cleansing from Gaza and the West Bank.
You know, some more words
Please.
maybe on Bethlehem and the other questions. You know, we all know back home that although the Israeli military machines was acting in Gaza, but their eyes were on the West Bank. The Israeli plans for the annexation of the West Bank was much earlier than the 7th of October, and they spoke about it. And actually, this was part of the agenda and the political program of this current government. So things did not start on the 7th of October as many people would like to talk, or the media try to feature things as such. So all the time West Bank was the aim. Even it's called Judea and Samaria in Hebrew. They do not call it even West Bank. And things, we noticed the difference even before Trump and after Trump. With the arrival of Trump and all the speeches he spoke about, his vision to Palestine, to the West Bank, to Gaza, emboldened the Israeli military and the settlers. Today, the worst thing in Bethlehem area, for instance, is the settler violence. As you might know, 85% from the land of Bethlehem is the sea area. So maybe some 40 years ago, the Palestinians used to control almost 100% from their land. Today, we are controlling less than 10% from our land. And according to the mayor of Bethlehem, he says less than 6%. Today, the Palestinians control their land in Bethlehem. We used to have around 15,000, 20,000 settlers. Today, more. Only in Bitar Elite, there are around 100,000 settlers in this settlement only, in one settlement. While we are around 190,000 Palestinians or 200,000 Palestinians. So settlers, they are, emboldened also. Today we call them the shepherds, settlers, small groups. They move around, forbid farmers from reaching their lands, shooting at them, beating them. So this is the worst what could happen to Bethlehem. I just want to tell you that my son and his family just left last year. They left to Canada. One of the main reasons, I am not exaggerating, one of the main reasons for them to leave is their 7-year-old boy, because he's in the same school of the children of Reverend Munther. He heard, he did not see that there was shooting at this road, and someone was not killed but was injured. And he heard about it from his teachers, from his schoolmates, and he stopped going to school. And when we asked him, why you don't want to go to school? He said, I don't want to die. I don't want to die. So he left. He left to Canada. I agree with Munzer that this is not, there should not be a Christian solution. But we as Christian, we are so few in numbers. We are at the edge of collapsing of our community. If there will be no immediate, solution, remedy, I don't think we will maintain our presence for the next 20 years. Things are becoming harder and harder, and they are really shrinking our space to the level that we are, thinking 3 times. You know, when we came to Italy, we crossed the checkpoint so easily, and we were so happy that it did not take us more than 10 minutes. But the driver who drove us to the bridge, on his way back, he stayed 6 hours at the checkpoint. If you understand Arabic, I will let you hear his message. He says, I am going to leave this shitty, excuse my language, this shitty place. This is the way they are really strangling us to the level that people are fed up, frustrated from the international community. Today we are the ones for human rights and international law. People are joking about us, that these are the groups of the human rights. People stopped believing that there is something can be done by the international community. For the 1 or 2 state solution, there are things unreversible, unfortunately. If you want to take Bethlehem as an example, there are things unreversible. I don't know how this will be solved. I don't know. Maybe we are approaching a one-state solution de facto. Not because both parties would like to have one state, but this is what we are experiencing right now. It is a one state, but with 2 different systems, an apartheid system towards the Palestinians and a complete democracy for the settlers and for the Israeli in Israel, proper. I don't know. Palestinians, they limited their demands to what UN resolutions give them and what the international law give them. So we are approaching a one-state de facto. Still, we are far from achieving even a bit of dignified life. Yeah. The truce and the ceasefire, we are praying and hoping that it will last. But I tell you from now, with what President Trump is saying and with what Mr. Netanyahu is trying to do, we can say for sure that they will not stop until every single Palestinian is either ethnic himself abroad or being killed in Gaza. And what's happening in the West Bank is not less dangerous or less what's happening in Gaza. More than 30, 40, when you say to make your meeting in Jenin, there is no Jenin anymore. 30,000 displaced person had to leave the camp and the surrounding area of Jenin. Hundreds of people were killed. Destruction of homes. 45,000 people were displaced. Really we are I say it, in one of the darkest moments of our lives. I never, personally speaking, I never had such a low morale than this time. Thank you.
I promise to be very short. I think it shouldn't just be worrying us Palestinians. It should worry you even before us. All what happened and what we saw in the last year concerning the international law and the international standards. What justifies demolishing totally all schools, all hospitals and clinics in Gaza? What? But you should take seriously what was going, all this amount of power that the Israelis used with the full support of the United States didn't just happen in Gaza. Remember what happened in Iraq? Remember what happened in Afghanistan? This is changing the standards of the international law. When you allow a state to destroy a hospital, you agreed that professional doctors and nurses could be a target. This is one of the main concepts of the first Geneva Convention, that medical personnel should be protected. Dr. Adnan al-Bursh, why he was killed under torture? What was the crime that Adnan al-Bursh committed in the hospital in Gaza that he deserved to be killed under torture in the Israeli prison? Now, Dr. Hussam Safiya, he survived. I hope he would be released on Saturday. Why? More than 1,300 medical personnel died in the war in Gaza. Why? Where it happened in other war in the world. You should take it very seriously that this is, they want us to normalize that a state has the right to fight terrorism in this way and can be able to use this force in this way. This is contradicting not just the international law, this is contradicting all moral values of us human beings that want justice and want to live in equality in this world. And this brings me to the question of the prisoners and all these pressure coming from the United States and part of Europe as well against the Palestinian Authority and all this support to the families. You know, this is connected because they want to convince all the world that all these prisoners are terrorist people. No one is speaking about the right of the Palestinian people to resist a prolonged occupation where the international law again guarantees for the people under occupation to resist prolonged occupation. And this was confirmed again and again and again in all international resolutions. Not just this, Israel is supposed as an occupier to pay and to give the prisoners all their needs inside the prison. You know that the families pay for the prisoners for their food and clothes and shoes and all the other needs inside the Israeli prisons. And not just this, these families that the father spends 30 years or 35 years inside prison, that he would never be released, or if he's released, they will rearrest him, how they will survive? If not the Palestinian Authority supporting them to survive. No one is talking about reparation. One of the concepts of the international law, when you do reconciliation, when you do peace, the responsible about war crimes is not just supposed to stop the war crime. It should compensate and repair the victims of this war crime. So these prisoners deserve compensation from the Israelis for the arbitrary detention. When we say that the military court system is not fair, all these thousands of people who were prosecuted in the military court, they are arbitrarily detained. They deserve compensation from Israel. So instead of forcing Israel to pay compensation for hundreds of thousands of Palestinians who were detained all these years, we blame the Palestinian Authority and pressure the Palestinian Authority. Of course, the Palestinian Authority is the weakest side here, and this is why they're always taking the pressure from the United States, because they don't have much alternatives. And this is why, again, the international community needs to interfere urgently in order to put an end for all these practices before it's becoming too late. It's really becoming too late. The settlement issue is becoming so serious. Just yesterday, the Knesset was discussing a new initiative, illegal draft, a law draft that was submitted in order to enable settlers to buy lands in the occupied territories. Imagine that now settlers can buy, can own. Where's the end? Like, where's the respect for all the standards in the international law about the responsibilities of the occupiers, the fact that they cannot bring their own people into the occupied territories? Everything is changing in front of our eyes, and it has to stop. Thank you.
I mean, this is really far too much. Anyway, Alle. Allora,
Okay, now I don't know if there are any other questions. We were given 1 hour, so unfortunately we have pretty much run out of time. We need to stick to the schedule, so I just want to once again thank you. Thank you, and I really want to say that I admire your resistance, your non-violent resistance. Your resistance when it comes to international law. You are doing everything you can to resist this attack that is happening. I really do hope that there will be a change of standpoint from our government. I hope that the international community will change where it stands, because what is happening now is an unprecedented situation. It is incredibly serious, and if we allow a government to do all of this, we are pretty much killing international law. And in the end, we will all suffer because of this, because law is the only way to move forward. So you are resisting also on our behalf, on the behalf of all those who believe in the principles of international law and international justice. So we really thank you for all of this. We really do hope to see you soon in the West Bank. And we hope we will be able to do something also based on some very clear positions. I understand what you're saying. It's not enough to express solidarity. We need to take on a commitment. We need to do something. So today it is necessary to commit against this abuse. Thank you very much.
dichiaro chiusa l'audizione.